All right, so hi everybody, my name's Thomas Woolsey. Welcome to the center. We're one day out from the United States presidential election. Tomorrow is the big day, tomorrow at time of recording. I just wanted to upload a quick video. My upload day normally isn't Monday, normally it's Friday, but I just wanted to upload something today, with it being the day before the election. Ordinarily my plan would be to see the election results and then probably make a video about it. That would go up on Friday, but my process actually involves writing the video on days Monday and Tuesday, recording it on Wednesday, editing it on Thursday, and uploading it on Friday. And given how long many have speculated that it may take for us to find out a winner for the election to be called, that's not really going to be practical, or certainly it won't be practical to do it with any kind of level of quality. If we only find out the result maybe Thursday or Friday, and it's not very much time to write a script, throw it together, edit it, all that jazz. So I wanted to do this video to just kind of touch on what I think the likely scenarios are, or some likely scenarios for tomorrow. That's not really going to be practical, or certainly it won't be practical to do it with any kind of level of quality. If we only find out the result maybe Thursday or Friday, and it's not very much time to write a script, throw it together, edit it, all that jazz. So I wanted to do this video to just kind of touch on what I think the likely scenarios are, or some likely scenarios for tomorrow. And I'm going to look at 6 potential electoral maps, not in any kind of or not in too much kind of granular detail. You can go to 538 or websites like that if that's the kind of thing you're looking for. This is just sort of how I kind of see things. So we're going to look at 6 scenarios, 2 looking at the scenarios for the president's re-election, and 4 examining the ways in which Joe Biden could become the next president. And that's the plan for today. So in this scenario, this is the most optimistic sort of outcome if you're hoping for the president's re-election, which would see him largely maintain the same electoral map that he did in 2016 while adding, actually Maine should be red, while adding Nevada and Maine to his tally. I've kept New Hampshire in blue just because New Hampshire seems to be leaning pretty Democratic this cycle. Maine and Nevada definitely are, to be sure, but as I said, this is kind of the most sort of optimistic outlook for the president. That's sort of what that map would look like. And, that assumes that the president retains the edge that he had in 2016 among white voters, particularly white voters without a college degree, seniors, whilst also making inroads into the Latino vote and among African-American voters. The best evidence suggests that Joe Biden has made some pretty good inroads among white voters, has cut into Trump's lead quite a bit from 2016. And while Trump has been making some inroads among Hispanic voters in particular, they appear to be more than offset by Joe Biden's progress among, white voters and senior voters. But this, as I say, this is the optimistic forecast for the president, which says that those gains for Biden don't materialize, and his gains among kind of African American voters and Hispanic voters do, and that he can keep the same level of turnout among white voters and keep that same share of the vote that he had in 2016 as well. And you might get a map that looks something like this, in that kind of dream scenario for the president. Maybe New Hampshire turns red as well. Beyond that, it's difficult to it's difficult to see him making progress anywhere else. You maybe an outside shot of somewhere like Colorado or Oregon, but that's not likely, or Minnesota. But they're looking pretty unlikely, even under the most kind of optimistic circumstances for Trump. Okay, second scenario, Trump just squeaks over the line, and here we see it's not too dissimilar from the last map, and it's not too dissimilar from the 2016 map. The only difference being that Biden retakes for the Democrats the states of Wisconsin and Michigan, which seem, among the Rust Belt states, they seem the surest bet. The polling there has been good for Biden, particularly in Wisconsin. There was that Washington Post poll that came out a couple of days ago that had Biden up by 17 there. And that does appear to be an outlier, but the polling since has shown Biden looking pretty strong in Wisconsin, up by sort of 6, 7, 8 points. Michigan's a similar story. Pennsylvania stays with the president under this scenario because Pennsylvania is a little bit closer. Biden's up by about 4 or 5 points in Pennsylvania, which is not narrow, but it's not comfortable either, and it's not too difficult to see a scenario where the president does manage to outperform the polls there a little bit, get that gap down, and then we're in kind of closer territory. So that's if the president is to be reelected, this is probably the most likely scenario, or something like it, I think. Okay, scenario number 3, we're into the Biden victories now, and this is the kind of narrow Biden win scenario where Biden takes Pennsylvania as well as Arizona and the Nebraska second. For those who don't know, Nebraska and Maine divide their electoral votes by congressional district. They're the only states that do that. So under this scenario, the president keeps Nebraska, but Biden picks up that extra electoral vote in Nebraska, the second congressional district of Nebraska, as well as taking Pennsylvania and Arizona as well. Arizona's pretty close. Biden's up there by about 3, I think was the last poll I saw. That's what 538 has it at on average in terms of the popular vote in Arizona. This is a scenario where, as I said, Biden has eaten into that lead among white voters enough to offset any gains the president has made among Hispanic voters. Arizona has been trending blue over the last couple of cycles. Hillary Clinton lost it more narrowly than the Democrats normally do in 2016, and the Democrats had a lot of success there in 2018 with Kyrsten Sinema's election to the Senate, and the Democrats are looking to add Arizona's other Senate seat this election as well. Martha McSally, I think that's the Democratic candidate there, Martha McSally, and she's definitely the front runner there. So that probably helps Democrats in Arizona. If the Senate seat is trending blue, then that probably tells us something about the presidential. It's not necessarily a direct correlation, but the Democrats, I think, can feel pretty bullish about their chances in Arizona. So as I said, we're getting into the Biden victories now. So under this scenario, we see that Biden is now stretching that lead with a greater than 100 electoral vote win, which would put North Carolina and Georgia into the Democratic column, as well as holding on to Arizona, Pennsylvania, and the Nebraska second. And this is what kind of the map might look like. This is probably pretty close to what I would consider the most likely outcome, just in terms of the current polling, in or around kind of this number, Biden getting about 320, 321, 22 electoral votes. I should have under previous scenarios, I would have had Trump winning Maine's second congressional. Under this one, Biden keeps that. as well as adding those states. And here, this is if the president's the inroads he's been making into Hispanic voters aren't quite what they thought they could be. They don't quite materialize the way that the president is hoping, and I say that's being offset by Biden's gains among white voters, as well as holding on to larger swathes of the Hispanic and the African American vote. I'm speaking of these two as though they're hive minds. They're interchangeable, and they're not. I refer to them this way only because those are the two groups that there's evidence that the president has made some inroads with, particularly Hispanics. African Americans, the evidence is a little shakier. Hispanics, certainly there is some evidence to say that the president has improved his standing there, which is the only reason I mentioned them in tandem with one another. But as under this scenario, those don't quite materialize, and Biden holds on to that vote, and that allows him to flip states like North Carolina and Georgia. Okay, fifth scenario, we are now getting into blowout territory where not only does Biden hold on to the African American vote and the Hispanic vote, but makes big inroads with white voters that sees him take places that obviously it sees him flip Florida and Ohio as well, the two kind of classic sort of major swing states. Ohio kind of less so. It's been trending more Republican, obviously, after the president won it in 2016 and the Republicans held on to the governor's mansion in 2018. But certainly those two states, so those that are that have for the past sort of 2 or 3 election cycles been seen as the two sort of key swing states, see them go blue under this scenario. As Biden kind of does make a dent among those white voters, really starts running up the score there, as well as holding on to those African American and Hispanic voters. And finally, the Democratic dream, in which Texas turns blue, as the Democrats have been hoping it will. It was closer than normal in 2016, and of course in that Senate race back in 2018, Beto O'Rourke ran Ted Cruz, very close indeed. The polling now has the president ahead by a couple of points there. I think in practice, Biden is probably looking at needing an 8 or 9 point win in the popular vote to really have a shot at turning Texas blue. Iowa flips in this scenario as well. Iowa's been trending quite a bit redder than the Rust Belt states just north of it, Wisconsin and Michigan, etc. So Iowa turns blue in this scenario as well. And I said this is pretty much the dream map for the Democrats. It would represent the biggest electoral college victory since 1988, Bush v. Dukakis, where Bush won 40 states, beating Obama's margin in 2008 and the Clinton margins in 92 and 96. How likely is this scenario? Not especially, you'd have to say. It would, we're looking at a very big Biden win on the night, of say an 8 or 9 point, landslide territory win to start thinking about turning Texas blue. But yeah, I think that's kind of how I see it. Those are the kind of some scenarios how it play out. Certain states could be a little bit different, but I think that that's the state of play as I see it. And I think Biden has more scenarios of where he wins because Biden is ahead. He is the front runner in the race without a shadow of a doubt. The president can absolutely win, absolutely can win. And, you know, if you are hoping for the president's defeat, then by all means hope, as I will be, but equally brace yourself. You know, prepare for it mentally, because it's not impossible that, you know, Trump's share of the vote is underrepresented, that he beats his polling like he did in 2016. And also don't rule out, you know, shenanigans with, you know, we saw Republicans trying to get more than 100,000 votes discounted in Harris County in Texas. That's particularly in a state like Texas, which could be close. If Texas is really competitive, then Biden has probably already won the election just because of his performance in other states. But in a state like Texas, 100,000 votes, that is not a trivial share of the electorate at all, if the vote is as close as it could be. I think Michigan, last time out in 2016, the difference was only about 30,000 votes. Texas is a much bigger state than Michigan, but it's still, there are scenarios under which 100,000 votes is statistically significant. So, you know, we can't discount certain shenanigans like that. Obviously, we can't discount shenanigans after the election, in the interregnum period between Election Day and Inauguration Day, or really between Election Day and the day when the Electoral College actually meets. And, you know, whatever the fallout will be of the election, there's still a lot of unknowns. But if all the votes are counted as they should be, and everybody is allowed to vote, and there isn't any malfeasance with regards to counting the vote, that's how I see it. That I think Biden is the favorite to win. He has a lot more routes to 270 than the president does, but it's most certainly not over yet. So, as I said, hope for the best, prepare for the worst, as the old maxim goes. Any Americans, if any Americans are watching this and you haven't voted yet, if you're one of the 7 Americans that haven't already cast their vote, then please do get out tomorrow and cast your vote. You know, I know you're as sick and tired as I am of hearing this election is the most important in your lifetime. We get told it in this country too with every passing election. And we get told the follow-up line that, yeah, but this really is the most important election in your lifetime. We hear that all the time too. However, the problem is that this really, really is the most important election in your lifetime. It just is. Not just for the United States, but around the world. We are watching and we are holding our breath. So get out tomorrow and vote. And wait till the votes are counted. And wait till the networks call the election and not the president. Beyond that, I say get out and vote, and best of luck. You know, the rest of the world is, all eyes are on America. So good luck, stay safe, and stay centered, my friends.